Penguin Audio presents *Lomax* by John Szwed. Read by Scott Sowers. To Roger D. Abrams and the Department of Folklore and Folklife, University of Pennsylvania, 1962 to 1999. Introduction. The first time I saw Lomax was at a meeting of the Society for Ethnomusicology, an academic group then too new to have developed its own orthodoxies. They were still debating the definition of music, the meaning of dance, the function of song, all with a sense of wonder and urgency. The founders of the discipline were all there: Charles Seeger, Mantle Hood, Alan Merriam, but the doors were still wide open. I was a graduate student new to the world of folklorists and ethnomusicologists and eager to connect with them somehow. The big event that night was a concert of African music by the Nigerian drummer Olatunji, who had added to his group some of the members of the Sun Ra Orchestra, and the mixture of the two musics had the scholars puzzled. As the audience filed out, I saw Lomax talking with two men who I later learned were Colin Turnbull and Weston LeBar, not your everyday anthropologists. I knew it was Lomax despite never having seen a picture of him, because his slightly genteel Texas accent drifted to the back of the room. He was big, though I suppose not as big as he looked, in an ill-fitting blue suit with his collar and tie askew. Well-dressed enough to be a Bible salesman in Alabama, I thought, but missing the mark of a successful academic. Later, in the high 60s, when I knew him better, it was he who chastised me for my choice of clothing. He told me that government grants people and highly placed folks of color would not take me seriously. My one effort at dressing up for something or other amused him, and he said my tan suede jacket and bright tie made me look like a Southwestern TV station manager. I must have been staring at him that day in the theater, for as he passed me, stepping over rows of seats, he declared as if it were the day's headline, "Pygmies are a baseline culture," and went on his way. He sounded like some 19th century grand theorist speaking from a higher plane, with a scarcely concealed moral program and no sense whatever of then-trendy cultural relativity. Once I'd heard him speak at length, I began to wonder what kind of folklorist was this, if that's what he was, with no particular interest in the text of a song or tale. It turned out that he was speaking comparatively of other levels of art, of humanity. Pre-verbal levels, where bodies interact in front of a cross-cultural tableau, and where art emerges from deeply encoded but virtually non-conscious behavior. Later, I worked for Alan on occasion, though never for money, as it was understood that he was always short, and I had a day job. He was infinitely patient with the novice, answering questions more fully than was required, with tales of this or that epiphany on the shores, or in the swamps of this or that community, of sheriffs with bowie knives who threatened to cut his throat if he ever came back to their county. His stories of working with Zora Neale Hurston were rich and full of his admiration for her fearlessness while doing field work among hoodoo practitioners. When I asked him for advice about graduate study, he suggested I drop out and instead do as he had done, seek the company of the very best people in the fields that interested me. Whenever Alan asked me to join him for lunch or dinner, it was always some place with well-etched character, though sometimes with marginal food. It might be a bar where the bartender was also waiter, cook, and cashier, like it used to be. Or a tiny Chinese restaurant where he felt free to order something not on the menu. In conversation, Alan could shift instantly from deadly serious or highly focused to mock folksy or laughing at the absurd, his eyes always a clue as to what was coming. When he called me, usually late at night, it was never just to talk, but because he wanted something, a reaction to a new research project, maybe a suggestion of a name of someone who might work with him on it. Though the request was unspoken, I always knew he was asking me if I would do it, and I wondered how many he had called before me. Sometimes what he had dreamed up could cost great sums of money or simply be impossible at the moment. One idea was a plan to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?